Welcome, everyone. First episode, Fireside Yarns. As always, with me, I've got Dave. What's happening, man?
Yeah, how you going, mate? How you going, Vino?
Good, man. I'm good. Episode one, it's finally happening. Finally
That's
happening.
it. We made it. We talked about it for a long time. Bloviated, but fucking here we are, mate.
Yeah, COVID aside, man.
We
We're
made it.
still
Cheers,
getting.
brother.
Yeah, cheers, man. So, Fireside Yarns, man. What are we about? What are we talking about here?
All right, well, we got two topics today, don't we? We were going to talk about kind of, I guess, what we talked about in our introduction video. If you're new to the channel, we want to bridge. We want to bridge that gap between left and right. It's getting a bit ridiculous now, and the rhetoric between both sides is not allowing pragmatic progress to occur, and ultimately as well, it's dividing people, and that's not what we're about. As Australians, we're united. You know what I mean? So that's going to be the first topic. Then we're going to talk about Australia as a republic. So that could be a bipartisan policy or ideology. I think we could get behind. That's a unifying force between the left and the right. But that's what I thought we'd talk about for the two topics for episode one.
Episode
What do you
one.
reckon? Yeah,
Man, sounds good to me. I'd love to jump
would
straight into it. So, bridging the gap. What are you looking at there as far as the left and right wing? You think it's gone too far right, too far left in Australia? What are your thoughts?
well, it's the division. I don't think I've seen the divide like this. It's always been there. There's always a yin and a yang and an ebb and a flow. There's always a place for conservatism and a place for liberalism and progress, of course. But I think the extreme sides now have taken over. People have just been pulled apart too much, and the centre is getting smaller, which is a big problem. And of course, we love people on both sides, don't we? And I think bridging the gap's better because ultimately we've got to have these differences together. You know what I mean? We've got to
Well,
try and
there's good
yeah.
arguments on both sides. And like you said, it's the extreme side, which we'll get into, in a later episode about, the extremism and going too far either side. But how much do you think our politics in that regards influence, say by the United States, their politics and events that happen over there? Do you think that has much of an effect on, well, obviously it has some effect, but how much do you think it affects us here in regards to how much people are at each other's throats?
Well, it probably didn't matter as much in the past, or at least it wasn't as obvious. But you can see it. The ideology, right wing ideology, is actually and demagoguery has been grown since September 11th, and that's been grown all over the world. And I think Trump kind of brought it out in everybody, and together with the internet and social media and the algorithms and we were talking about this, I think, at the original Fireside that was not recorded.
The one that we're not willing to share with anyone.
This is some dangerous shit on that. Some cancerable shit on that. But yeah, the divide between us, it's very dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah. I think to a degree it's healthy. It's always been healthy to have, competition and have disagreement there. It forces progress. But and I agree with you at the moment that the divide in our lifetime, I suppose, is the worst that we've ever seen. And I don't see it being, too far left or too far right, but it just seems to the moment that you mention a topic or you start talking to a specific group about a particular topic, they get very passionate, and instead of having a discussion nowadays, they jump down people's throats, which, personally, I would prefer a debate. I prefer facts, people sitting down and talking about it rather than getting emotional and attacking each other. Because at the end of the day, we're all in the same country. We all want the best for the country and our people. And attacking each other, not in the sense of violence. In some cases, yes, it is, but jumping down people's throats just because they say something that you don't like, I think we can get past that, and that's what we hope to do with Fireside is, mediate that to a degree and get some people on and talk about that. So
yeah, because we got people we love on all sides of the aisle. Yeah, I think I probably fall more progressive social democrat style, so a bit to the left, I'd say, but ultimately I'm a pragmatist and just want to move forward,
yeah,
and just to bolster a bit more of what you were saying earlier, like people get together and they argue because they're both coming from a place where all the information that they got is suggested to them. So that say you're in an industry that's heavily dependent on fossil fuels, right? So you might get into politics, not like in the Greens, say, not like in external interests wanting to close down that industry. So then you might listen to this news channel. And because you like that, the algorithms, Facebook, YouTube, they're going to suggest to you like-minded stuff. Oh, well, if he likes this, he likes this, he likes this. And all of a sudden that's where you're getting all your information from. It's an echo chamber.
Fake news
Fake news
argument
but,
comes into it. Yeah.
We don't have the critical thinking in us to decide, because of course the internet and information's all at our fingertips now. So people don't know how to decipher between bullshit and a reliable source.
And
and I think
that's a lot of the problem, isn't it? There's too much information. Almost, and not all of it's right. It's almost a rush and a need to be the one that knows, and for that they'll disregard credible sources just to be the one who's got a different source or a different opinion. So
well, it doesn't get that far anymore. It's all memes now. So people are just communicating each other, trying to attack each other through memes, and they are funny. Like everyone's got funny memes,
You're just having a go at me now, man, because of my meme page. Is that it? You're fucking jealous of my meme page?
No. They have their place. They have their place. They have their place. But that's what they are. They're funny. But I think the problem is that, well, the problem with the left anyway. Because I think I'll speak a little bit about that first. Because even though I probably do fall to the left on a lot of things, I do think that we have our fucking issues too. I do think the left is very unforgiving of people and of people that might just be ignorant, and there's people that might not be able to have that empathy for the classes we're trying to help through policy or who we might not agree with, and we ridicule and we do the memes too, and we call people stupid, and a lot of these QAnoners, conspiracy theorist people have congregated together out of being ostracized by the left and by liberals. So, and that's what Fireside's about. We got people all who we love from all over the spectrum, so we want to show that these people are, they're good people too, and everyone, you can have the chance to change, or at least we'll listen to you,
and that's the big thing. People
discuss it all. Yeah,
people want a platform. They want to have their say. They want to be heard.
And they should be.
Absolutely, man. Everybody deserves to have their say. Admittedly, there's some things that we just won't have on here, but
or we're gonna push back on. Like people can talk about stuff, but within reason. You know what I mean? We're not here to fuck with people or hurt anyone. Like this isn't a debate, a blood sport channel, eh? Like that's not.
No, man, it's just a discussion. Sit around, have a few beers, spin some shit, and have a chat. Try and get some insight into what other people are thinking. That's my interest on it. So to bridge that gap, what do you think it's going to take? Do you think it's going to take more of discussions like this? Do you think it's going to need to be, say, a change of the way we get our information? What do you see is going to want to drive that change?
Well, it's how I think there's a good analogy. When you're driving your car, or even if you're walking on the street, let's say, and you're about to bump into someone, right? You get into this funny little, we went the same way. Oh, fucking silly me. Here you go. Sorry about that giggle on your way. But if someone, if you're driving on the road and someone pulls out in front of you, it's get the fuck out of here, and people die because of old age. People getting some crazy shit. So, and I think that same safety people have, and that say protective force of say being in a steel car people have when they're online, because everything's so online now, so social media based. I think that people have that anonymity where they can be brazen like that, and when you're talking like we are now, you don't. Or when you're by the fireside, you like in a community, like in a country, like of each other, we just have to get along. Like in a family, we got to figure out a way to where we can have our opinions, but we can just fucking get along, like, because we've in common, we've got a lot.
Yeah.
So we can focus on that. Everyone is the same at the end of the day. We all just want this country to do, and the world really as a whole, to just fucking do well, and people just want to be free to do what they want to do without hurting anybody.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So do you reckon like forcing that conversation and getting rid of those echo chambers? I mean, one of the worst echo chambers is social media, man. Like it creates those little hubs. Facebook is the worst for it.
Yeah.
Facebook, a lot of those sites where they can exclude other people's opinions, and it just creates the one-sided view. And I think that is where, in my opinion, this, everything has escalated so much, is because, you've got on the left side, you've got their echo chambers, and on the right, you've got their echo chambers. And, they see themselves as the majority, when in reality, it might be split perfectly down the middle, or they might even be a minority, but they don't see that. So what are your thoughts on that? What do you?
Well, we're ultimately any decision that ends up happening, like all of our elections are a fucking knife edge, aren't they? Like we're so like close to so ultimately independents end up helping drive policy, or at least end up having to be lobbied. But we are split down the middle for the most part, and in some areas we're a lot further left than we think. Like you were talking earlier about Americanism really coming into Australia, and that style of politics because of Trump, really, and even through the Obama era and the Bush era, it's really because they're the world power. And now that that's come in here, I feel that's really shaken the discourse of Australia and really made Australians take a weird right wing side, when really they don't understand that. God, if Americans had what we had over here, what we take for granted over here, they would consider us fucking socialist. You know what I mean? We have paid parental leave. We have a good minimum wage. We have tradespeople in this country. They get award rates. You're not going to fuck workers over like you're going to do over there.
Well, that's a big
our
topic.
childcare, our social welfare is huge. Our education system and public sector is vast, and it does very good. And the proof's in the pudding. We've got our downfalls too, but Americans would consider this country fucking socialist.
Well, it's been quite a hot topic. All of those benefits that we have, especially with the recent election with Bernie Sanders, and I know you were quite vocal around that period, because you couldn't understand why Americans didn't want that. The plans that Bernie Sanders had for America. But saying that, would Australia benefit from a republic in that regard? Seeing how America is, the way it is, and you mentioned before about Australia becoming a republic, and not trying to lead too far away from what you were saying about the socialist type things, but I imagine we will definitely get into those conversations in later episodes. But as a republic, do you think Australia would benefit like America?
Like many countries,
we've got those benefits. Do you see any of that changing under a new constitution, under a republic?
No, look, I only think a republic makes Australia uniquely more Australian, and I think the only thing that will change is that we'll be seen. Well, many things will change, symbolically, I think, for different types of people, of course, but the world will see us not just as a country under a monarchy, which really, that we have been an independent country for a long time. Let's not be silly, but symbolically, it would be a powerful statement. Like our head of state, for instance, is a foreign leader who, when they meet with dignitaries across the world, they represent England or Great Britain. They're not there representing the interest of our country. They're not democratically elected. They're an exclusive member of a family that are a huge welfare recipient family that paid to live in a life of luxury.
Absolutely.
And look, people will talk about that's the past and the Queen now is just a rubber stamp and all. Well, then fucking get rid of it. Like, I think where we can come together, I think, as Australians, is like, I think we can all agree that Aussies can, well capable of just having our own head of state that's elected and not born into a foreign family, but someone that, maybe one day we can have the say. We might be able to have a say in electing that person. The Queen or King of England doesn't represent Australia. They've never been Yabbian. You know what I mean? Like, they've never, you know what I mean? Like,
They wouldn't know what
They don't
Murray
give a
Cod
fuck.
is, mate. They wouldn't know.
Even Prince Philip in the referendum was like, when Australia by a 4%, and we talk about the referendum in a little bit. Even he was quoted as saying, "Don't they know what's good for them?" Like, they were this was going to be like a beautiful. The Royals were basically, it's going to be a good thing. You know what I mean? It was going to be a peaceful transition, like a lot of countries have left the monarchy and still taken part in the Commonwealth Games, and perfect. The sky didn't fall down. When we talk about the referendum, we can,
That brings me to my next question. So, you being an Irishman, right? Is the Crown's input into Australia and your objection to that slightly a bit of bad blood from, the history with Ireland, or is it just
definitely.
you looking at what's better for Australia and moving forward, or is it a bit of both?
Well, I think you could. I think that helps me empathise, I would say, more with the Indigenous Australians, the actual Australians who were here 60,000 years ago, who are in the same boat. Or with being Irish doesn't make me an Australian Republican. Being Australian and liking republicanism, or a sovereign country does. For instance, being Irish doesn't make me think that India was right to becoming to leave the monarch behind. Or any other African country, or America, or any other country that was like, that's enough. We're all right, thanks anyway. So it doesn't have to be a bloody revolution like other countries had to do.
Yeah.
Well, we can have an
amicable.
Yeah, we're still allies, we're still friends, all that,
Yeah.
But look,
we'll still flog them in games of league, man, and probably rugby. So let's settle it on the sports field.
Yeah. But also, I think all Australians, when polled, generally in the high 70s are, look, Australians head of state should be Australians, or some of them weren't even aware. And I'd like to have a monarchist on to talk to him about this. I think that could be very interesting.
Man. I'd like to get a monarchist on to mainly see where that passion comes from. Because I suppose it's taught. We don't have that interaction with them like English people would, having the palace and that there. So we see our prime minister.
Fucking here, like, they're not part of our culture. Like, Aussies are fucking.
We're prisoners, man. We're criminals.
Yeah, they work hard. It's about it's actually about equality here. It's supposed to be like you work fucking hard if you're going to be here. You know what I mean? It used to be to survive here. Even the country's original custodians, the Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islanders, and then also the people. This is what we share too. Also the people that came over here as convicts, and settlers, okay, and invaders. You know what I mean? All alike came over here, and it was fucking hard. It was hard to fucking to live. You know what I mean? And it was, and it's a rough land. You can't exploit this land. The natural resources here don't allow you to exploit it, or you'll have a drought. You know, they don't allow you to willy-nilly pollute because of a water shortage. You know, for lots of reasons. To live off the land was a very powerful thing, and you had to be tough. You know, and that goes against this royal pompery and you know, and like I don't even want to look at it from that angle. I don't want to be defensive about it and angry at the royal family. I just think it's time to step away from it and just be like, look, we're always going to have our history, but we're a country with one of the most ancient histories of all. You know,
Absolutely,
of human.
man.
You know, so let's embrace all of it. Like we are. I think 30% of Australians are born outside of Australia, and I think 50% have a parent who was born outside of Australia. Look, we're not a monocultural country. We are multicultural, but ultimately, we just want to come here. We want to fucking, you know, have a safe country that people can go to school and they can open a shop and you know, open a business and just and be at peace and have your opinions and sit down, have a fridge out your back garden full of piss. And fucking
have a campfire that you can go and stand around and have a yarn with.
That's right. And God forbid we elect one of our own, like an indigenous, for instance, a republic would allow for the first time an indigenous person since the invasion to be head of state. You know, and I think that could be good part of reconciliation. The family that came over here and invaded this country, the same family is the same. It's a family. Royalty it's about a family. So these indigenous people have to use legal tender that has the same family on it, the Queen's head. And when the Queen dies, it'll be Charles's fucking head on the money. That's just what happens. And he'll be the head of state, and baby George will be a leader one day, you know. And God forbid someone has a fucking you know, I don't want to be gassing anyone, but we don't. It's just not. It's just not us. You know what I mean?
Irish blood fucking, up. Yeah.
But it's Aussie too, because I think if you asked any Aussie, do you think an Australian should be the head of state? And I think most would be like, fucking fuck off, mate.
Yeah.
I think we're big enough. Man.
I think
we know what we're all about, you know.
Absolutely, man. I think the time of having a monarchy is past. You know, to move forward, we're our own identity. We are our own country. We, you know, are working our way to be one as a people. So, you know, it is, in my opinion, I agree with you. It's time for a republic. But when do you think we might have this present itself again? I mean, 1999 was the referendum, and
the referendum
went down. Well, so let's talk that. When do you think?
You had to. Yeah. What? Sorry. What was the question?
When do you think this
could eager here?
Well, all right, let's go the referendum. Let's talk that. And that'll work our way into the next as to whether we think it's going to happen again soon.
Well, the Republic was going to party like it was 1999, but it was not meant to be. It was not meant to be.
Do we have to put a little thing in the fucking credits for that now, or
maybe? I thought we weren't fucking around when we were talking about the cringe was coming. We embraced the cringe. Man. This is episode 1. We're Phantom Menace territory here, people.
There is going to be some fucking shit dad jokes in this as well. I'm just going to warn.
My dads. The kids are asleep. The wives are happy. Mine's watching RuPaul's Drag Race now.
I think mine's watching reruns of Charmed, man. So.
Oh yeah, man, excellent. But 1999 referendum. You had the yes side, or the Republican side, kind of led by Malcolm Turnbull, funnily enough. And you had the monarchist side represented by Tony Abbott, funnily enough. So this isn't a lefty proposition. This is something that could be quite bipartisan. You've had Bob Hawke was a Republican. Paul Keaton was a Republican. John Howard was a Republican of a sort. Bill Shorten, opposition leader. Rudd, Gillard, these people, Malcolm Turnbull, are Republicans. So this is an Australian as fuck thing. But however, the problem with the 1999 referendum for the yes side, for the Republican side, was they were not just fighting the monarchists, who are fucking ruthless, led by Tony Abbott, of course, who is an Australian dude himself, even though he's born in
John
England.
Howard had a
He's
fair
born in
bit
England.
to do in that as well, with the conservative side of it. John Howard was still
but he was
heavily
open. He was open to having it a certain way, and he was definitely he was allowing talks about it, and he ultimately allowed the referendum to happen under his leadership. And it was a big gamble, like we said. It was most people, 60 to 70% of people wanted a republic, but the problem was they were fighting a two-pronged thing, because the Republican side was split into two. There was those that thought that the Parliament should elect the head of state, similar to what they do with the Governor General, and then get it approved by the Queen. Whereas now it would just be the Parliament, the majority of the Parliament would elect the Prime Minister, and I guess also the head of state. Whereas on another side that thought that there should have been an elected president, so it was themselves just elected by the public. So you would have another, I guess, executive branch of government, or just symbolic, like the Governor General, someone who would just be Australian and would not be so much, would need to be a party affiliated, like a Prime Minister is.
And in that regard,
so that was the problem.
In that regard, I mean, look at how our government has acted in, say, the last 15 years, where we elect a Prime Minister, and then the party changes them so constantly, or has changed them. I think it would have to definitely move away from the Parliament electing that president. It'd have to come to the people. They would have to have no say in it, because even though they've changed those laws since Scott Morrison came in, the amount of backstabbing that has been involved in our governments to date has been atrocious. So, that fear is still there from even that referendum in that regard.
Well, that's right, and I guess I think the Parliament has its place. I think ultimately a Prime Minister is a good thing, someone who does the day-to-day running of a country. A president usually, and we just have an idea of a president from an American standpoint, but in Ireland, let's say, we have a Prime Minister who is elected by the public, just like a Westminster Parliament system over here, and then the Parliament elects the Prime Minister, the party, the majority of Parliament, basically. So you have that, but then you also have a third branch of government, which is just a rubber stamp, someone who okay stuff, someone who's possibly a referee style person, someone who's just there in case, a check and a balance for maybe a Prime Minister who is overstepping or becoming authoritarian. It could be someone who's uniquely Australian. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have to be a Labour or a Liberal or a National person. It could be just someone who we trust. That's all right, we all as a country can come together and we trust them. But we can also let our states and our Parliament do its daily running of the country. But that's what the president could be. Or again, we could have just something that's uniquely Australian republic. It doesn't have to be something else. We're just us anyway, So
it's not a set format, is it? It's what we decide we want it to be. So that's another topic altogether, isn't it? This, if a republic did come to pass, how will we have that? But,
that a lot of people argue that's the argument we have to have first, because ultimately, if we go to the Australian people and say, well, this is what we want to do, I think a lot of Australian, the people who would be tentative or a bit weary of going towards a republic, basically most Australians are, look, we've got stuff that we can worry about right now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, whatever. But ultimately, because of the positive things we were saying earlier, and also That's just so lazy, isn't it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're always Australians are innovative and we're industrial and you know what, you got to do your hard yards. You know, we're trying to progress and do things better. And
that's the thing.
I just think,
If we're doing something right, we can always do it better. There's always a better way. I mean, we wouldn't be where we are now. I mean, you know, without being forced to make those changes, but you know, we'd still be getting water out of wells if we didn't keep pushing forward and want changes or want to do better. So
that's right.
Well, that'll bring me to the question: when do you think would be, you know, do you think it'll pop its head and present itself again anytime soon, or do you think at the moment the climate is, I mean, the focus is on COVID a lot at the moment, but do you think that politically we would be in a position to move to a republic anytime soon?
Look, ultimately, I don't see the fire there for it. Like, I don't see it as I think it could be there because I think most Australians would be for it in general. But like, here's another. Again, we go back to 1999. The problem with the two-pronged, the heads button in the Republican side, the presidential, the pro-presidential side basically said, look, vote no for this one. This way we don't have just the Prime Minister voting for another Governor General. It's going to be the same anyway. Let's just wait another year till we have the Republican platform that we want, and then we'll push forward. And so that was, some people were like, all right, cool, we won't vote for it this time, and in a couple of years we'll vote, you know, and it just never came. The promise wasn't there. So I think we have to have these types of conversations. I think we have to use it as like we're saying, a bridge for the left and the right, for something we can just unify behind, because Australians are yearning for that. Whether you want reconciliation, Indigenous people aren't happy with the way Australia is now, and Australians aren't, like, you can see, like, the nationalistic Australian side right now aren't happy either.
Well, even with the handling of COVID, seems to be a lot of people that have just lost confidence. Even prior to COVID, there was the fires, you know, and a big thing was then, you know, Scott Morrison taking that trip to Hawaii. And even though there is people that will argue that, you know, everyone deserves a break, at that point in time, the leader of a country stepping away and going overseas while, you know, there was people in his country trapped on a beach that could not escape because they were there and stuck with fires. They were literally in the water holding their kids, and there he is on a beach drinking beers and enjoying himself. I think our government has become too comfortable. And I'm not an anarchist by any standards, but I think they have become too comfortable, and there needs to be discussions and movement towards some sort of a change, just to make them realize that they are there because the Australian people have put them there, and it is not a free ride for them, you know. And far too often we see, as you know, that's what they're doing. They're using it for their own benefit, which, you know, everybody knows that anyway, that's going to happen. History has shown that, but I think, it's getting close to that time that I think that, there needs to be that discussion about the change.
Yeah, and look, it's something that's uniquely us. We'll have a true Australia Day then too. We can actually, you know what, we could heal the wounds of Invasion Day by having it the day when it's like, now it's time you left. We can have that as we can choose to have that as the moment where it's like, let's use this to, like, let's at
America
least
does
have
it every year, 4th of July, don't they? That's you know.
And we can gather around the fucking Barbie, and we can play fucking backyard cricket. You know what I mean? We, you know, do what everyone celebrates Australianness in their own way, and together we can fucking have two up on it as well. Fucking another day for two. We can celebrate around it and just be. This is the time when we're all together, because this is.
We made this decision. We weren't put here as you know, prisoners, or we didn't have our land stolen off us. We've made this decision that we are going to be one country and a Republican country. Cool, man. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to get, like you said, Monica's on here and other people that are um, more involved in this Republican movement. I haven't had a great deal to do with it. You probably have more than me, but what I would really like is to have that chat with them and see where that Republican movement is going. Is it still there? Is it sort of buried its head for a little bit because it hasn't got a leader?
Well,
I'd
not
be
even
see.
the Republican movement still have that. Like Malcolm Turnbull still talks. Like if you're looking for it, you'll find the speeches on Terry Butler and Bill Shorten. Like every prime minister speaks on it. You know what I mean? Like it is something that comes up and that we revisit the Republic issue all the time. But I don't think it's hard to grasp. I mean, we understand to become prime minister, you must be an Australian citizen. To become a member of parliament by constitution, you must be an Australian citizen. But to be the head of state, you must be born of this line of family, the Saxon Coburg, whatever they're fucking called,
Mm,
the Windsors, over in England. Doesn't make sense. I generally think that if you were just, I don't even want to, I'd love to have monarchists on, I really would, but I'm more interested in just a normal fucking true blue Aussie fair income motherfucker. I'll get him on and just be like, hey, what do you think? Forget the left, right, republic,
yeah.
even calling it a republic. Who do you think should be our head of state? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do you think Australians are ready for that? I do. I think we've been running this shit. I think we are different than that. And I think, yeah,
absolutely. Well, that's it's only episode 1. We've got a long way to go if we want it to.
that's
So
right. We don't want to
plenty,
dip too
plenty
far
of
into certain
opportunity.
things.
Oh yeah, that's what we could. I mean, we ran our test episode last night, which once again, you motherfuckers are not going to see it because it was
That's
putrid.
2 hours of fucking
Yeah,
mental shit. Okay, that's
and we
wrong in the shit.
branched. It was like a tree with the amount of branches we spun off on. But and that was this is what we want this channel to be. Is we will have people on here. Certainly get into our comments if you guys want a topic that we can talk about. If you want to be involved, and we'll get you on the show to have your say and talk about it, because we are generally here to sit around, have a yarn about anything in general. As long as I can sit here and have a scotch in the process, we can talk about anything. So
Yeah, well, look, everybody, we're not here for gotchas. We're not fucking. This ain't no blood sports debate shit. Let's just come together and talk, hash it out. And if we don't agree, then fuck, we don't agree. But
let's
I'm
have a
sure we
beer at
can
the end of
agree
it.
on a
Either
lot.
way,
Yeah,
either
let's
way.
respectfully disagree, so our kids, the laughter of our, I think it was Bobby Sands who said that the laughter of our children will be our revenge. And I think that's beautiful, because it's like we've got a hard history here. There's a hard history that we need to talk about, and no one likes talking about it. People get defensive, and people say, "This wasn't fucking me." It was. So there's a lot of things we've got to come together on. Yeah, but
We can
we can
educate each
come
other. It
together.
doesn't need to
Yeah,
be that sit down the
we're
class.
gonna be wrong. Yeah, we're gonna be
Yeah,
fucking wrong. We're fucking,
man, it is,
like
and
we're.
this is the
Yeah,
thing. It is okay to be wrong. You don't have to be the one that is correct all the time. There's no shame in ever being turning around and saying, shit, I didn't know that. I know better now, and I'm a better person for it. And there's no need to, get into blues over it. And that's what we want to do, have that chat. Get
come
Dave
on, come
riled up
on,
when we mention, Republicans and all the rest.
and you will get in the comments. I'll chat with you about it. I'm an open book, as
Absolutely.
we are, as it is here at the Fireside. So
Fireside.
everybody, like, you slap the pokies, slap the like button, slap the subscriber button, and join us fucking next time on the fucking Fireside Yarn.
Get
Yeah,
involved.
yeah, get
So we haven't
amongst it.
episode 1, we haven't done up what we're going to do for next week's.
One down.
We will get there. We will get there. We hope that you guys jump on board and come along for the journey. and get involved, get in those likes, in those comments, and we will certainly cover as much content as we can, as many topics as we can. Dave, first episode, man, how do you think it went? Sketchy,
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
sketchy,
I'm
but
happy.
yeah.
Look, it's cringe, and where am I? Where am I? Like, I've got to, like, I've got to get. I'm on my phone here. Like, yeah, we got some upgrades to do, but
Yeah,
we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm happy with this. It was great. It was great chatting with you.
yeah, man. It's good
How
to.
long did we go? Do you have a time on it now? Or?
I think, yeah, I'll know once we finish the video.
Yeah. Look
All right,
down. It'll
guys.
be down here, everybody. It's down in the corner.
Yeah. Right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in and watching us. Hope to see you on further episodes in the future. Dave, have an awesome night, man. I'll talk to
See
you
you,
later
Vino,
on, brother.
man.
See
Talk
you,
to you
man.
then. Bye.